All signs are pointing to this as Brad Stevens is gearing up for the NBA offseason and is looking to shed some salary for the Boston Celtics as they try to duck these aprons and get underneath and save some money in the luxury tax. And with that being said, multiple players are being looked at as possible trade candidates for the Boston Celtics, but in today's video, I wanted to look at one person that is making a decent amount this season and into the luxury tax next season that could be an expendable piece for the Boston Celtics if they do look to shed some salary. We'll be getting into who that player is, where they could potentially go for in a trade, and what could that benefit for the Boston Celtics, all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I am Bruce Veliz, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support on these videos for Nick, Patrick, and myself over these last couple of days. And as you guys know, we have daily Boston Celtics content for you guys here on this channel regarding everything talking about this Celtics team. With the draft now just 2 days away, Patrick and I will have some videos coming out about those draft picks, if the Celtics did a good job, bad job, and going over those player profiles. So if you want to stay up to date on everything, make sure to continue to hit that subscribe button, as roughly 64% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed, to stay up to date on everything, as multiple news sources stuff will be breaking over the next couple of days with the Celtics, and when this is going to be the place to find it all. Without further ado, let's dive in and let's explore this video today. Make sure to grab that snack and let's dive into this Celtics update. As personally, I do think that this makes sense for the Celtics and will be one of the dominoes to fall for this team going into this season. If we want to look at the Celtics projected roster, like I mentioned, they are currently sitting at $230 million projected salary going into next season, being $23 million above the second apron, with still having free agents in Al Horford, Luke Kornet, and Torrey Craig. The Celtics also obviously have Jayson Tatum, who is going to be out for the most of the season, if not the entire season, dealing with his Achilles tear injury. That means that the Celtics don't really have much to really work with here as guys to really bring back and to kind of hold out their roster. Therefore, they're having to shed some salary and make moves regarding Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porziņģis, and the guy that we're going to be mentioning today, and Sam Hauser, to help save them some money and also make it a little bit easier for this team to restructure some contracts for the future. My boy Nick NBA tweeted this out a long time ago, but he knows that Sam Hauser saves the Celtics $80 million in tax penalties, and that's a huge sign for this Celtics team, not only just this season saving money, but for the future as well. That was $80 million when racked up times aggregated, being above the second apron, multiplied by 5. It is very expensive for the Boston Celtics to be paying for this team. And unfortunately for Sam Hauser, he might have to be one of those dominoes to fall. Ball Report X reported this, that Sam Hauser is viewed as a trade candidate by many NBA executives around the league, and that was reported by Michael A. Scotto, something that we dove into and explored a little while ago when talking Sam Hauser and potentially being on the move. Sam Hauser is a solid player, and the reason, once again, why he might have to be on the move is because the Celtics need to shed salary. The Celtics didn't need to shed salary. A guy like Sam Hauser would be staying. A guy who went to Virginia, went undrafted, grew through the main Celtics, found himself a role with this team, has really proved himself to the haters and to many Celtics fans as well, that he can be a solid catch and shoot scorer on the wing, can be a pretty solid, impactful defender on the perimeter, but not only just that, slotting into the paint. And like my boy Patrick has mentioned multiple times on this channel, Sam Hauser has evolved his game offensively, similar like Peyton Pritchard did into last year and even into this year, by adding stuff to his game, not just being a catch and shoot guy, but someone who can create his own shot, someone that was stepping a little bit more into the mid-range this year, someone that was working more on those backdoor cuts, trying to find his way to the basket and becoming just a more impactful and effective offensive player in different ways. And that's something that he's learned to be able to grow within the league, playing with this team, having that chemistry of guys knowing where he's going to be. And I truly do think a guy like Sam Hauser can help that and carry that to another team in the NBA. Once again, as a wing, a very coveted piece in the NBA, and someone who can shoot the ball really well in a three-point dominated league, Sam Hauser is going to be viewed by a lot of assets as a solid addition to their roster. Sam Hauser, per 36 in his career, has averaged 4 3-pointers per game out of 9.5, shooting 42% from 3 in his entire career. And perhaps almost as important, he has 0.7 turnovers per 36 minutes. For elite teams every single year at 6'8", this just doesn't grow on trees. The Celtics would really miss a guy in Sam Hauser if he is leaving this Celtic squad. And I will definitely miss Sam Hauser once again. You can't really replicate or replace this type of wing scoring. Now, obviously, the Celtics do have some younger guys here, right, that they have talked about that they will consider obviously giving more time to a rookie in Baylor Shireman, a guy in Peyton Pritchard who just won Sixth Man of the Year that's going to be stepping up for this Boston Celtics team on the offensive side. But Sam Hauser is still a key component at that wing position for the Boston Celtics for not only the offensive side, but the defensive side as well, as he fills in and helps the Boston Celtics in that hole, in that position of a hole where they really have. Obviously, Tatum and Brown, the best two players on this roster, play the wing position, but following that, there's a little bit of a drop-off. Obviously, Sam Hauser, then Jordan Walsh, and then Torrey Craig. And with the uncertainty of Torrey Craig coming back and even Sam Hauser being on the trade market, that obviously does raise some concern for who could be playing that backup wing position going into next year. So what could that mean for the Boston Celtics, and who could they potentially get, and who could Sam Hauser potentially go to this season? Well, that's what we're going to look at next. Who could be interested, and what could be coming back to Boston in a Sam Hauser deal? If we want to look at this report here, obviously from Bobby Manning, we can see that alongside the Brooklyn Nets, who owe as much as $70 million, own as much as $70 million in cap space, there are multiple teams that can take in Sam Hauser's contract for basically nothing, and the Celtics can just trade him into the salary cap. Those teams include the Bulls, the Pistons, the Grizzlies, the Hawks, the Spurs, the Hornets, the Jazz, and the Wizards, alongside the Brooklyn Nets, as they all have enough space below the first apron to make a trade for Sam Hauser where they can take on if not all of his contract being feasible. And that helps out the Boston Celtics in a lot of ways. As like we mentioned, they're looking to shed salary. So if they can trade Sam Hauser's contract into one of these teams that has that salary cap, well, guess what? That $10 million gets completely wiped from their books. And that helps the Boston Celtics drop, right? We all know, once again, like I mentioned, they're trying to save the salary. They're about $23 million or $22 million above the second apron. They would like to get below the second apron and into the first apron, which would have the Celtics have to drop below that $207 million tax line. They're at $230 million. By trading Sam Hauser, that fully doesn't do it, but it would help them save some money, because in deals involving Jrue Holiday or Kristaps Porziņģis going out, the Celtics are going to have to take some salary in return. So even if the Celtics shed some salary in those deals, but they only cut it by $3, $4, $5 million, the Celtics would still have to save another additional $10 to $15 million, and that's what benefiting of trading Sam Hauser into one of those teams helps save. Also helps the Celtics by not taking back a player, right? Not taking back a contract or a roster spot. It allows them to potentially get a draft pick or to get some more incentivizing picks in the future for the Boston Celtics to use, to then bring over to use for other trades down the line. Now, in my personal opinion, do I want to see Sam Hauser go? No, but like Nick NBA said, for the Celtics to help save $80 million in tax penalties, it does make sense for them to go through with one of these deals. He could also fit into a larger trade exception. Only the Hawks, who created a 13.1 for Bogdan Bogdanović trade with the Clippers, and the Bulls, who picked up a $16 million one in the Zach LaVine trade, have enough room below the first apron to take this route. The Pelicans, Heat, and Kings all currently have TPEs that Hauser could fit into, but currently sit within $26 million or less of the first apron line, and teams that use their full mid-level exception trigger a hard cap at the first apron for the 2025-2026 season. So that's where we might see where teams like the Pelicans, the Heat, and the Kings have some questions on if they want to go out and get a guy like Sam Hauser for this role. But personally, when looking back at teams that have the money to take him in, I think the Pistons are a great fit. They could use some wing scoring and shooting, and with Tim Hardaway Jr. and with Malik Beasley in free agency, there's no 100% given that they're going to be coming back. The Grizzlies obviously had a guy in Luke Kennard, but maybe they feel like a guy in Sam Hauser could be a little bit better than that, and with him being a free agent, maybe they go out and trade for him. The Atlanta Hawks had Bogdan Bogdanović, they just lost him. Maybe they feel like they need to bring back another scorer like that in Sam Hauser, who's a little bit younger. The Spurs could obviously use that scoring on the wing. The Hornets, another team obviously where he has some experience with Charles Lee, the head coach who was the assistant coach of the Celtics just last season. The Jazz, the Wizards, obviously some young teams that definitely could use some scoring on the wing. All these teams make sense for trading for Sam Hauser. I think the market for Sam is going to be abundant there, with a bunch of teams kind of tapping in and kind of feeling out what they can get from him. Because if the Celtics weren't in this position, I don't think they would be trying to trade Sam Hauser. He's on a $10 million contract. It's very, very attainable and well worth for what he can bring on both sides of the ball. And I do think all these teams are going to see that the Celtics are desperate, trying to lose some money, shed some money, and will kind of pounce on a guy like Sam Hauser and take advantage of that. For the Celtics, maybe they get another filler contract back, or if they can trade Sam Hauser into one of these either TPEs or potentially into these salary cap teams here, then the Celtics maybe just get a draft package return instead, which helps them incentivize to get a little bit younger, but also have some assets for the future when Jayson Tatum does ultimately come back. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What would you like to see the Boston Celtics do with the contract in Sam Hauser? Like I mentioned, I'd love to see him be back in Boston, and there still is the possibility of him returning to Boston if they do find other trades down the line with other contracts like Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porziņģis, maybe in some other ones that we haven't discussed. But ultimately, it does make sense and does seem like it will be pointing to the direction that the Celtics will be using a contract like Sam Hauser to help shed some salary, and ultimately Sam Hauser will be going to a different team, trying to provide that 3-and-D wing role that he provided so effortlessly with this Celtics squad. And I wish nothing but the best of luck for Sam Hauser if that is the case. But if he is back in Boston, I'd definitely be rooting on our guy 100%. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what you guys ultimately think about Sam Hauser, and what trade would you guys consider ultimately doing for Sam Hauser, and what team you think he fits best. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. We really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everyone.